Okay, so today we're really diving deep into this whole world of two-factor authentication. And not just like what it is,
Right.
because I feel like everyone's heard of it by now, but like why is it suddenly everywhere?
Yeah.
And what does it really mean for like everyday people, like our listeners right now?
Yeah, it's definitely more than just a trend, I think.
Right.
Two-factor authentication is becoming essential these days.
Totally. And I get that it's like an extra step, right, when you're logging in. But I'm always kind of curious, is it really about like stopping those sophisticated hackers?
Right.
Or is it more about just like everyday protection against,
Yeah, that's a great question.
the average kind of threats?
It's both.
Okay.
Think about it like this. You probably lock your front door, right?
Of course. Yeah.
Even if you live in like the safest neighborhood,
Right.
that's just like basic security.
Sure.
Two-factor authentication is kind of like adding a deadbolt.
Yeah.
And a security system on top of that, it's about layers of protection in a world where the bad guys are getting sneakier every day.
That's a good point. Yeah. It's like you don't just rely on one thing.
Exactly.
Especially with how much we rely on like online accounts these days.
Right.
So, okay, layered security. I'm with you.
Okay.
But before we go any further, can you just give us like a super quick breakdown of what 2FA, even IS,
Yeah.
like beyond just usernames and passwords, because I feel like that's where people's understanding kind of.
Absolutely. So two-factor authentication is all about proving that you are who you say you are.
Okay.
And it does that by asking for two different types of credentials.
Okay.
Your password is one,
Right.
but then it adds a second factor.
Okay.
Something you have, like your phone or something, you are like a fingerprint.
Right.
Or something you know in your password besides your password, of course.
So it's not just about what you can remember, it's something unique to you.
Exactly.
Okay. And you mentioned phones there.
Yes.
Because I'm constantly getting those SMS codes for logins.
Right.
Is that like the most common type of 2FA then?
It's definitely popular, mostly because almost everyone has their phone on them, like 24/7.
Right.
So you log in with your password and boom, text message with a code, easy. Right.
Super easy. Yeah.
But
okay.
it's worth knowing that SMS isn't actually the most secure method.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I was actually just thinking about this the other day
Okay.
because I was going to try out one of those authenticator apps. Is that what you mean? Are those actually more secure than getting a text?
Way more secure.
Wow.
See, SMS relies on your phone carrier,
Okay.
which can be vulnerable.
Right.
Authenticator apps, on the other hand,
Yeah.
they use something called time-based one-time passwords,
Okay.
or TOTP.
POTP.
Yeah, basically, it's a constantly changing code generated by the app
Right.
and your device's internal clock,
Okay.
making it nearly impossible for hackers to intercept.
So it's like a synchronized secret code dance
Yeah.
between your phone and the app.
Pretty much. And even if someone steals your phone,
Right.
they'd need to get past your phone's own security measures
Oh, okay.
and figure out your app password.
Oh, wow. So it's like double.
Double security there.
Okay.
Yeah.
That is fascinating.
Yeah.
Now that is what I call a deep dive detail.
Right.
I love it. Okay, so we talked about how 2FA is becoming like really critical now.
Mm-hmm.
Why now W though?
Right.
Is it really that much more important than it was even like 2 years ago?
I would say so.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
all those data breaches you hear about all the time,
Right, constantly. Yeah.
they're happening more often.
Yeah.
And the tactics that these hackers are using are
It's just scary how good they're getting, right?
scary good, right?
Yeah.
And even big companies with tons of security measures, they get targeted.
Yeah, nobody's immune to it.
Right. Nobody's immune.
It's crazy.
So for you, the listener, that means even if you're super careful with your passwords,
Right.
your data could still be at risk. Two-factor authentication adds that extra layer of protection
Mhm.
that makes a huge difference.
Okay, so it's almost like you have to be proactive about it.
I would say so.
You can't just react after the fact.
Exactly.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. And you mentioned earlier there's even physical keys for this, which I find fascinating. Like out of a spy film.
Right.
Is that overkill? Or
I used to think so.
really?
I'll be honest. I had a friend a couple years ago who's like super tech savvy, right?
Yeah.
And he got his account hacked and he was devastated. I mean, it's
Oh,
like
gee.
his whole life was on there.
Yeah.
So after seeing that, I immediately went out and got myself a security key.
Okay.
For my most important accounts,
Yeah.
Banking, email, like all that.
Makes sense.
And honestly, now I can't imagine not having it.
It's like peace of mind.
It really is peace of mind.
Because what's more valuable, right?
Exactly.
Little inconvenience now.
Right.
Or like potentially losing access to your entire digital life.
100%.
That's a good point.
And the good news is,
Yeah.
setting up two-factor authentication is usually pretty easy.
Okay, good.
Most online services will have a section in their settings where you can enable it.
Oh, that's good to know, because sometimes it feels like they hide that stuff from you.
Yeah, they make it tricky sometimes, but
Really?
most of the time it's pretty straightforward.
Okay, good to know.
Yeah.
You did mention a bunch of different authenticator apps.
Right.
Is there one that you recommend over others?
That's tough because they all have their pros and cons, honestly.
Right.
The best one really depends on what services you use
Okay.
and what feels easiest for you to manage.
Right.
Some people like Google Authenticator because it's super simple.
Okay.
Others like Authy because it syncs across multiple devices.
Right.
So my